Did you know that this is our first ever audio and visual podcast? You're listening to the Xbox Hub Podcast, the official podcast of the TheXboxHub.com. For all the latest Xbox news, reviews, videos, and opinions, make sure you visit the TheXboxHub.com. But for now, settle down, get comfy, and open your ears for some podcast delights.
Hi, welcome to the Xbox Hub Official Podcast, episode 207, I think it is. My name's Gareth. I'm going to be your host. And this is very different for us because you'll be hearing us in the normal way on the audio podcast, but also we're doing this visually as well. We're doing this in sound and vision on YouTube now, and you can watch us there do the podcast. So hello to vision people out there who are watching us. We've got some amazing backdrops on the three of us. But without further ado, on my virtual left is Mr. Richard Dobson. How you doing, Richard?
Yes, hello. You can actually see me on your virtual left as well for once.
Oh, that's good. I can't. You're both on my virtual right in this, but we pretend.
Oh, you're in the middle for me, and I am on your left.
Ah, there you go. This is all new for us. And on my virtual right is Mr. Darren Edwards. How you doing, Darren?
Hello, very well, very well. I am on your virtual right as well. You are in the middle for me also.
Oh, there we go. This is very exciting. Hopefully this will work, and we won't have to do this all again and repeat everything we do. Hopefully it will work in some way. So we are going to just talk about the Gamescom, really, and we're going to talk about Gamescom overall for the last few days, but mainly we're going to talk about the opening night, which happened on Tuesday night in the UK, and our kind of responses to some of the announcements and some of the games. Generally, what do we think, Darren? Were you impressed by what you saw in the opening night?
I enjoyed it more than Summer Games Fest, but then it didn't blow me away at the same time. I think it was probably quite a low bar, if I can say that, Summer Games Fest. So there were some interesting bits in there, but I don't know. It feels like maybe these events are stretching a bit thin at the moment, so the jury's out for me.
What about you, Richard?
I was quite disappointed with it, to be honest. There was only a couple of new announcements or world premieres, as they call them. The first one being Borderlands 4, which is desperate for some good publicity at the moment. A game series I have no interest in, so I think that set the tone for the rest of it, really. It just seemed to be a lot of I appreciate the updates for games coming out, but there wasn't really any, for me anyway, big hitters in terms of new announcements. Without
being too harsh on it as well, because people they're doing a job. Sometimes it feels quite corporate. It feels like we're watching a kind of corporate presentation of their sort of like yearly annual report to when they do what do they do, what's it called, the end of year report, where they get all the shareholders in and go, things are doing really well in yogurt, we're up 4%. It has a little bit of a feeling of that at some point.
I think a lot of Jeff Keighley stuff does, though, because it's him and his pals are trying to schmooze up to people that he wants to be friends with. I think, as we're going to mention with Masters of Albion, he sat and had lunch with Peter Molyneux and convinced him to put this trailer out for this game. And yeah, it's just, I agree with you. It doesn't feel natural at all.
Okay, let's talk through some of the big things. We're gonna flit around. We won't go how we normally do from beginning all the way to the end. We're gonna go. I think we just talk about one that's kind of exciting, but is also controversial, which is the Indiana Jones game and is it the Grand Circle, the Great Circle?
Yeah,
Great Circle.
So we saw a little bit more of the gameplay of that again. Nice little introduction with sort of Troy Baker behind the scenes, talking about his love of indie. And then we got this release date for December the 9th this year. Yeah. First of all, before we talk about the second part of that announcement, is excited about this game? Did it make you feel more excited or less excited? What were your thoughts?
I didn't think it particularly added much that I didn't know or was looking forward to already. Obviously the second part is the big talking point, but we were right. We said a few weeks ago we thought it would be a December release, and yeah, it's coming out just before Christmas for Xbox, so that's good. But I'm still really excited for it. The more I see, the more I think, yeah, I'm confident it's going to be a homage to the film, so I'm still looking forward to it.
I am as well. I don't know why that excited me more. It wasn't anything new. I think it was just a bit of the gameplay again, and it just looked more interesting. What about you, Richard?
Yeah, it was similar to Darren. I think it was a game that I was going to play anyway, so I don't necessarily need to see any more of it because I'm already convinced. But I think what they did show was just enough to tease fans a little bit more. They announced afterwards as well that there's going to be some story DLC as well. So I'm not sure how long the game's going to be, but there's certainly stuff coming after that as well. And I think I'm just excited to see Machine Games bringing out something else other than Wolfenstein that they seem to have been working on for a long time.
Yeah, no, I think generally it's great to have that at the end of our Christmas game. December the 9th.
Indiana Jones feels Christmassy anyway. So.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. And then we had the next bit of the announcement, which was coming to PlayStation 5 on April, wasn't it? April, May?
I think it was spring 25.
Spring.
Has it
spring
been confirmed?
25.
I'm not sure it has yet.
Not yet, no. And that caused the internet of Xboxers to cry and just all that usual stuff. I mean, there was a big thing, isn't it? I think people then brought out, Phil talking only a few months ago saying that's never going to come to PlayStation, and he's been doing lots of interviews about it. And what's our feelings about this? Are we? I mean, we were on Xbox Hub, but we've got PlayStations, or we've got access to PlayStations, and we play PlayStation games. So we're not in one camp. We're not really kind of like defending Xbox. But do you think it's a slight for Xbox owners, Darren?
I mean, no, in one sense, because it's always been the strategy, I guess. But I don't know, it feels a bit rushed maybe because the game isn't even out yet on the Xbox. And talking about kind of end of year reviews, we had that business update in February. That's when Phil said, "Oh, it won't be Starfield, it won't be Indiana Jones." So I think for me, it's quite telling about what's happening behind the scenes and how much influence perhaps Microsoft has got over the Xbox brand to make sure that they're making money. But on the flip side of it, I guess I know the focus isn't going to be on hardware as much, even though there's some new consoles releasing, like the discless Series X in October. But it does make you wonder what the reasons are to buy a console for Xbox rather than just subscribe to Game Pass, either through your fancy telly or cloud or whatever it is. So if it was me, I probably would have let the game run on Xbox and see how well it did before I made any decisions, because it's a timed exclusive, but it's not even a year like we had the other way round with, I think it was Ghostwire Tokyo and stuff for PlayStation. So it does seem quite rushed to me, which I think is a window into the maybe wrangling around these decisions within the Xbox and the Microsoft HQ.
I think that's a really good point about the Microsoft. They probably have gone, you've bought all these franchises. We need to get some money back off these franchises. What's the way of doing that? We sell to the people so people can buy those games. You know, we're making money from that, aren't we? You know, I think a stat came out that Sea of Thieves on PlayStation has sold 1 million copies already. So
it's done well.
It has done well. So, and they're making that money. And I suppose their argument is that money will then come back into Xbox.
Yeah,
probably go to Microsoft, but it will go. That's the whole point. It is that one. What's your thoughts, Richard? Do you think it's a slight? Are you angry? You got to take to the streets?
Similar to Darren, I think 3-4 months of console exclusivity doesn't suggest to me that Indiana Jones is therefore going to be a system seller. But yeah, like you say, because the majority of people that own Xboxes, I imagine, have got Game Pass, which is what they're going to be playing it on. So they're not going to necessarily get as much revenue as they would do selling a £60 game, really. on all the various different editions. But what was I going to say about? Remember now. But yeah, so what it was? I think Indiana Jones was initially announced before Microsoft bought Bethesda, so they had to get that exclusivity away from PlayStation, which I believe they paid extra money to be able to do that. And now it's going back on PlayStation. So again, I think that speaks volumes about Microsoft's strategy and how it has changed. And Phil Spencer can spin it as much as he wants about we always want people, no matter where people are, we want them playing our games. But the strategy has fundamentally changed. There's no denying that.
And I think that probably makes sense as a business, doesn't it? I'm not defending Xbox, and I think they're not selling consoles, are they? They're not selling consoles compared to how PlayStation is selling consoles, or the Switch, or the Switch 2 when it comes out. It's just not. It doesn't seem to be doing that well compared. So it makes sense to go, well, we got all this stuff. Let's make money another way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's hard, isn't it? Because the more you go down that road, exactly what Darren says, people are buying PlayStations to play God of War or Horizon, or knowing that they're never going to go over to Xbox, are they?
Well, this is it. I mean, I was going to say maybe Xbox will eventually go the way that Sega did if they do exit the hardware market in many years to come and just focus on publishing. Who knows? But I think a lot of people are quite tribal in terms of their loyalties. I know we've talked, we're not really, because we've got a mix of consoles and we like to play as many games as possible because that's what it's about. But you can see all of the kind of Xbox till I die people are now questioning around the whole kind of community and the brand. But I suppose you've got to do what you've got to do to be successful on one hand. So.
And the good news is we've got to... Sorry, Richard, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, what Darren said about Sega is obviously they left the console market, but hardware doesn't make any money. We've said that multiple times. I mean, I guess the Series X and the PS5 are probably now in a position where they are starting to make a bit more revenue, but for the first couple of years, and especially with how the semiconductor industry was, those consoles that have been sold at a loss.
Yeah. It's well, we've got an Indiana Jones game we're going to play in December on the Xbox, which would be great. Yeah, that'd be good. Can we talk about the two games that sort of bookended the show, which were that we didn't know much about the game or the gameplay, but we know the first one, which was what Richard's hinted, which was Borderlands 4, which we saw a kind of like CGI kind of the thing and the mask. Like it wasn't. There was a teaser, wasn't it, more than a trailer? But coming next year, apparently.
I'm surprised at that, considering how little we saw. I'm
going to ask a question to both of you, really. Is Borderlands as huge as they think it is? Because I've played them. They're a good fun. I can see the enjoyment, the co-op stuff, but I love the Borderlands Telltale games. But is it a huge franchise, do we think? Still, after the film's problems.
I think it's too early to tell about the impact on the game, but I've never really played them, and I think Richard's just said that, so it's quite interesting that none of us three are huge fans. I mean, you could look at it two ways, couldn't you? Either they need something desperately to distract from how badly the film has been received, or it's really poor timing and they should have saved it, maybe. But I don't think it'll make that much difference to the games, how the film does, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, okay. Richard?
I have tried with Borderlands. I really have. I've tried the first game when that came out. I tried that multiple times, just couldn't get into it. And the Tiny Tina spin-off, I tried that one as well. I think it was free on Xbox at one point. So I really, really tried to get into it because I have a friend that's an absolute diehard for the Borderlands franchise. But ironically, they've turned around and said that they're not going to see the film, and actually, only the first game's really that good. So I think perception has really changed now that everyone's, because I think the Borderlands series was very puerile when it came out, but it was very violent, and I think at that time when the first one came out, a lot of people bought into it, but those same people are now 13, 14 years older and have probably outgrown it a little bit. And is it going to introduce a new wave of fans? I don't think so after the film either.
Yeah, I mean, I think the co-op element of that game is the bit that I think got everyone excited more than the kind of single player. I think the people who joined and played it through, that seemed to be the kind of love of. But you said it's like, maybe it's being a 14-year-old kid, it's the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah, fart jokes.
Yeah, claptrap, and all that stuff. But yeah, well, there you go. It's coming 2025, being the biggest year of gaming history. It's going to be mad if they're all going to come out then. So we had at the end of the reveal at the end, which was a new Mafia game, which was what was it? Is it just called Mafia, or was it called
The Old Country?
The Old Country.
Yeah.
Set in 1900s, set in Sicily, and it's the developers talking about going back to kind of roots of where it all began with the Mafia and stuff. I'm a big fan of the Mafia games. I really like Mafia 3. I love 2. You can play on the Game Pass at the moment, the first game, the remaster of that. Little open world, driving around, collecting sort of dirty magazines. Seems to be a big thing. Playboy covers, vintage Playboy covers. It was nothing I'm interested in at all. Yeah, that's all I can remember then. Not that I looked that hard, I promise you. I'm excited about this. It's going to be. Were they talking about next year again?
I don't know if it was mentioned specifically. Was it, Richard?
Maybe I was wrong, but I think they did say next year as well.
I think there's going to be a big shift next year. It's just they're just waiting for GTA, aren't they, to find out when that's going to land.
Yeah,
you're right. It's all the pieces are still moving. I thought it was interesting though, because Borderlands we just talked about and this Mafia prequel are two big reveals, but we saw very little, and I don't know whether Jeff kind of was like, we need something. We just need something in there because they never had that, one final thing. It was at Summer Games Fest. Remember, I was talking about it was just like, bye everyone. I meant it. There was nothing else. So we haven't seen a lot of either of them, and I'm just a bit. Are they there just to justify the showcase? Because especially with Borderlands 2025, I would have expected to see more. So I think both of them are gonna shift, like Avowed has. They're gonna get later and maybe into 26.
Yeah. Let's talk about. Can we talk about June Awakening next?
Yes. Yeah.
And what we thought about that. We saw quite a chunk of that, really, didn't we? In the trailer, we saw what it is. Who wants to have a go at describing what they thought it was like? Darren, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it looked really, really interesting. So we saw. It's almost like a massively multiplayer world set in the universe of Dune. And I don't know if you guys have seen the two remakes, but they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it looked like it captured the essence of the film really, really well. So it's like warring over spice, which is this natural resource, and you can join, is it House Atreides? And then there's going to be some sort of like factions and clan elements by the look of it as well. And you can spar against different people that you might wander into in the wild, but then you can set traps to trigger like the famous sandworms and things. It just looked absolutely brilliant. Pardon the pun, it was like a massive sandbox game basically, and it just looks utterly faithful. So I'm really, really excited for it. For me, I just wanted to know if there's a bit more of a narrative that drives you through the game, or it's totally wide open and free, because I felt like we didn't hear much about that. But the gameplay and the role-playing element looks brilliant. I'm really looking forward to this. I think it looks great.
Richard?
Yeah, again, Darren's spot on with what I got out of that as well. I think it's got all the hallmarks of an MMO, different factions, PvP, PvE, just enough to sort of get people interested again. But yeah, like Darren said as well, like the the narrative, whether it's almost like a Sea of Thieves game where you create the narrative essentially with your party members. Be interesting to see how the spice economy works, and some of the loot that I imagine that you'll be able to buy with that. So yeah, optimistic for that one. I think it does look. It definitely captures the essence of the two more recent films anyway. So yeah, look, want to know a bit more about that one.
I like that. I really like the. I was into the way they just put that trailer together. It was just a really exciting way of going. This is your journey from, starting off from nothing. Then you'll be able to build, architect these kind of buildings, and then you buy the chopper thing, whatever that's called, and then you're out across the world. And then I think even the narrative, it was hinting that you're finding these kind of like temples or these bits of history around the world that you can explore. And then at one point it just goes, and then you're at war.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of a massive fight, and I was like, oh my god, it is like exactly what you said. This is like, they do this well. It's like a proper sandbox of going, I can really get lost on this world, but also I can go in and join in this massive event or battle,
So I feel like the MMO genre as well, the best examples are genres that are games that are original IPs, like World of Warcraft and stuff, not based on any sort of film or books or anything. This could be the first one that really breaks through, because I don't know whether you guys played the Lord of the Rings online. I didn't really take to it at all. So for me, it's really exciting to have that type of gameplay in a world that I'm already really excited about and I've experienced through film beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when's that? Did they said that was spring, wasn't it? Or have I made spring again next year? So yeah, well, and a lot of it looked. We saw a lot of gameplay, didn't we? It looked like it was there rather than, but Borderlands 4.
30 seconds of CGI. Yeah. No, it was one of the games that was showed off the most effectively, I think, in the whole show.
I wanted to talk about two indie games. Well, they're not really indie games, really, but I'm going to put these two together because this thing is just Little Nightmares 3, and from the makers of Little Nightmares 1 and 2 in the new studio is a game called. Is it called Animal? Reanimal. I just want to put these two together because it's kind of interesting. First of all, I didn't know the team had split and weren't doing Little Nightmares 3. I really love the first two games. I really love those games. And when I watched Reanimal, I first of all went, Little Nightmares 3, instantly. And, it's interesting, but they both have a very similar feel, don't they? Just the way that. But I thought Reanimal looked amazing. I thought it had that kind of like what makes Little Nightmares 3 good, that kind of journey, but it had this great sense of scale. Again, we saw them kind of walking through these huge areas, a sea of bodies at one point in a boat. I'm just really excited to see more of that. And even with Little Nightmares 3 as well, it's a new team, but I think there was some creatures there, and I think that's co-op, isn't it? That was the plan for that all along. Who knows, two people, but yeah, I don't know if you have any interest in this, you two? Or was it just me?
When we mentioned it last time, Little Nightmares 3 got shown. It's moved over to Supermassive Games now, and you and I are big fans of what they produce, Gareth. So this was the one that got Little Nightmares onto my radar because I've not played 1 or 2. But yeah, they both look very similar, but just different enough that you were able to sort of say, well, one's definitely Little Nightmares, and the other one is its own new thing. Again, like I say, it's good, but these two games, because they were quite close together as well in their announcements, I just think maybe they got lost a little bit.
Yeah, there was yes. I think, I mean, if they're both coming out next year, then they need to have 6 months apart. Might be a good idea.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they did look good, but maybe just more of what works is fine, because I thought it was going to be Little Nightmares 3 until they said, oh, remember the trailer with the pig at Summer Games Fest? I was like, oh yeah, that's right. So I mean, it looks great. It looks absolutely terrifying as well, and brilliantly stylized in terms of how they do it, almost like fairy tale horror. But yeah, I think if you're not a fan of 1 and 2, it's probably not going to convert you to the series unless they show off more in the future. I might be being unfair there.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about one little other mention of an indie game is Hurdling, from the people who did Far Lone Sales team. Do you remember seeing this one, the Hurdling one?
Yeah.
You've got those creatures and you go through. I really love that. I love those two games, the Lone Sales. Is it Far Lone Sales? Yeah. They're two of my favourite games, and I'm really excited to see what they do next. And it has a very different feel, but has that sort of epic journey again. And huge creatures. Can we talk about King of Meat?
Why not?
Why not? Let's talk about King of Meat. Now, I had the privilege for Xbox Hub of going down to a place in Shoreditch in London and playing King of Meat a few weeks back with the developers, and we had to keep it embargoed till the Gamescom trailer was shown because we were keeping it. But basically, King of Meat comes from one of the big sort of persons who's in charge and design it worked on Little Big Planet, as well as some of Rare's early games, which we'll talk about Peter Molyneux in a minute, and that's so he has this kind of pedigree, and the sense of the game is a really good mixture of, like, it's almost like a bit like Fall Guys and a bit like a dungeon kind of quest game. So the idea is it's co-op. You can play it single player, but I played it in co-op for about an hour and a half. The idea is this TV show, King of Meat, that adventurers will go along and then you go through these dungeons and you work to 4 of you, and there's traps and all sorts and loot to gather, and you go through it bit by bit, and you just got to get to the end of it, and you'll get a bronze, silver or gold trophy at the end. And then you go back to sort of like a hub world. You can buy with your quotes. You can get missions. Also, you can get more armor. You can get stuff. You can get decorations on your thing. The usual kind of stuff. But the biggest draw in this, which is the Little Big Planet thing, is that then you're designing the dungeons as well. So you can design your own dungeons, like with Little Big Planet when they were designing that world. So that's what they're kind of hoping for. So I think it's going to come with around about 80 to 100 dungeons already, and then on top of that, you can have creators will make their own dungeons that people can get through using that kind of tools, and they showed how that works. It's quite nice, little kind of simple. The way Little Big Planet was of just picking and making those kind of levels, and that's the kind of exciting bit about it. It's whether it lives and dies. Always with these things with the creation, whether it gets that community involved and they kind of embrace it, and it could, go on for ages and have that thing. But what I played of it was just really, really, it was good fun. We played for an hour and a half. I was worn out by an hour and a half. I had to sort of like, I've got to go now. But it was a really good fun element to it because it's not too serious. The team we were with, we were trying to help each other out, but it's like, each of you got kind of special powers, or your weapons. Sometimes you have to just do puzzles. Sometimes the places are, you have to stand on trigger points, or you have to work out a way to help each other to get across the level. There's all sorts of traps. There's a massive horse's hoof that comes down and just crushes you like a god's horse at various times. You've got to watch out for that. But it's really good. It's a good fun. They didn't say when it was coming out, did they? I don't think they did. No. It's pretty good build when I read it, played it, watched it. So hopefully that we'll see something maybe in beta soon. But yeah, I'd look at it. If we're looking for another sort of co-op game, that's fun. I don't know what it'd be like on your own. I think you have the 3 others as AIs, of course, but I think it might lose a bit of that fun. I think the fun is having the 4 of you kind of trying to do it all. I think that's the good. So there you go. King of Meat coming soon. Any questions, you two, about that?
Is it across all platforms, like, to maximise that player?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
creativity.
Yeah, I think it is. Definitely is. It's not just Xbox.
Yeah, because I saw it was the Amazon games that they're publishing it.
Yes.
So yeah, how did you do when you were playing it?
Oh, I was terrible. You know me. Yeah, I was awful. I can apologise. It gives you a sort of like, you know, at the end of those levels, it says who was the best, and I was always the least effective. No, the less killed, the more the pacifist. I hadn't killed enough people. Yeah, they were very nice, my group though. But yeah, I was rubbish. I was dying a lot as well, so I get falling in things and they have to be revived. But you only get a certain number of revives as well, so you could there is a way. And we were playing it, I think, on an easier level. We were playing easier dungeons, so they do get more tricky. But yeah, it's really good. I think it's very addictive. It goes like that as well. Good. Let's move on to connected to this. Peter Molyneux. He's back.
He's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were
Richard
talking about him a few weeks ago.
said it earlier. He had lunch with Jeff, and Jeff said, "Come and show your new game." And we did. We saw a trailer, and he sort of went, I don't know what I was doing on mobile phones. It was, I don't know what I've been, it was like someone going, I don't know what I was doing when I was taking cocaine. Those days are behind me now.
Lost a year, complete blackout.
Yeah, it was like that. It was like, oh, just don't worry about it, Peter. You experimented.
We'll forgive you, yeah.
Well, yeah, so he's back, and he's produced a trailer for a game called Masters of Albion, which is in the Fable universe, which he's come out and said they haven't got copyright on the universe. That started already. So, what are your thoughts? Maybe Richard start on this one.
Yeah, it's an odd one because it was a bit of a shock to see him back. Certainly, it had aged from when we'd last seen him. But there's a brilliant interview with him on Eurogamer, where it's a few weeks before this the announcement, and he's showing it off, and he's like, "Look, guys, I know that things between me and the press haven't necessarily been the best, but he's been really careful now what he's saying beforehand, so to get this sort of preview of this Masters of Albion, and obviously it was a very early build what we saw." But also a bit of the gameplay itself with like the God Hand that he helped popularise, was it like Black and White and things like that. It's him going back to his roots, merging what he's good at together, and hopefully it pays off for him. Yeah.
Darren, were you excited about Masters of Albion?
Yeah, I mean, I instantly got flashbacks to Black and White. I think we talked about that game a few weeks ago as well. We've done quite well with predicting the future for this showcase. I think anything by Peter Molyneux has got to be worth a look. I think, as Richard said, he's going back to what he does best by the look of it as well, to his roots. Goodness knows how long we'll have to wait for this game, but it does look like it could be a time sink. But yeah, it did make me laugh when he just completely brushed away mobile at the beginning. It was a great intro. I did wonder what we were in for, but then he kind of settled down and it was all right after that.
But do you know what? After we talked about the kind of corporate feel to some of these showcases, and, you know, it's great to have characters like him
definitely
coming there and saying stuff and being, you know, and he you know, people don't know who he was because of gaming, but he was inventive. He produced these huge titles and pushed boundaries. He was always trying to push boundaries. Even with his array into mobile, he's trying to do different stuff all the time with his team. And I think that should always be applauded. And like you said, this game looks like it's exciting, the god stuff, and then swapping between being a god and then taking a hero. But it looks early days, doesn't it? It needs a bit of polish, I think.
It looked a bit rough and ready. Again with that Eurogamer interview, though, he was saying that he was hardly sleeping because he knew that all this publicity was going to come his way again, and everyone thinks back to I think back to Project Milo when he showed that off on the Kinect, and how he was able to implement a piece of paper into the game, and it never really worked from that. But like you say, it was very human to see him back, and he felt very vulnerable actually on stage. And I also think about I can't remember the guy's name, unfortunately, but he introduced a secret level, and what he'd been working on for 3 years, and just how much that meant to him. So there were those moments that reminded people that these guys are humans still.
Yeah, and they're working on these things. These are their heart and soul, which they're doing as well for 5 to... Yeah. Should we talk about Secret Level? For those who don't know, Secret Level is by... Is it Tim Miller, the guy?
Yes.
He's worked on this series with Amazon, and he worked on that brilliant animation
Death and
thing.
Robots.
Which I loved that. I loved Death and Robots.
Yeah, it was good.
They're great. And he's done that, so it has that similar feel to Love, Death and Robots, but it's set in the game world. They're 15 kind of short stories in certain gaming universe. Is that right?
Yeah, spot on. There's some big names there as well. We saw Kratos from God of War pop up. Keanu Reeves reportedly in Armored Core as well. So there's some really big franchises in there. I said to Richard after the showcase, is it wrong that this is possibly the thing I'm most excited about and it isn't a video game? Because it looks great.
No, I would agree with that. The trailer was very choppy because it didn't want to obviously give too much away, but it's something like it's not just all these AAA games. I mean, there are those in there obviously, but then it's like Sifu we saw quite heavily at the beginning. And then there was a reference to Pac-Man at the very end. So there's certainly like a lot of breadth to what the stories are or where the story's influences are coming from. But I would agree with Darren. I think this was perhaps the highlight.
Yeah. It's really. I mean, I think like how Tim Miller said, I don't understand why this hasn't been done before. And you were like, yeah, this makes complete sense. See this and this, in these worlds. Put in film, make these into stories. That looks really exciting. I think it's coming this year, isn't it? On Amazon.
10th of December. So day after Indiana Jones.
It's a good Christmas.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we were only talking on the last podcast about gaming adaptations, and maybe this is the perfect way to do it. Rather than trying to stretch Halo out over 10 episodes and stuff, maybe short anthology that really kind of gets to the core of the franchise that it's representing is the way to do it. We'll see.
Yeah, well, Halo Legends did that, didn't it? Did you watch that?
Yes, I did, yeah.
That was quite good, actually, as well.
Yeah, it was probably one of the best adaptations. I like Nightfall as well, but I think it's going to be good.
Would you like to pick one each to talk about? Because I've got loads more to go through, but I want to see if I'm going to miss something. Darren, have you got something you really want to talk about that we haven't?
Well, I was going to pick one, but I think Richard's probably going to pick it, so I'll save it for him. So I'll throw over to Richard first because I don't want to steal your thunder.
Very kind of you. I don't mind though. You got me intrigued now. What was it?
So it's the new season 2 of Dark Pictures. This Directive 8020 looks brilliant.
Go for it, Darren.
No, well, we were watching it, me and Ryan, and we kind of said, "Oh, that's the one out of James Bond, isn't it? Out of No Time to Die. Is it Natasha Lynch?
Lashana
Lynch. And I was a bit like, "Oh, what's this?" And then all of a sudden, it started to kind of reveal itself that, "Oh, okay, Supermassive. This is looking like I know what it's going to be." But no, it looks really, really interesting. So I think she's you're a bit confused about what's happening at first, and she kind of walks through like a door and sees herself standing in the doorway. And it's like the usual kind of survival horror that you come to expect from these type of dark picture games. So it'll be interesting to see how it kicks off season 2 and maybe spins a bit of a longer story. But yeah, essentially she's being hunted by this alien that can mimic, so that's why she sees herself, and she's on board this craft called the Cassiopeia, and she's got to get out basically and make it home, but also make sure that they save themselves and try to keep her safe from this alien organism in the process. So if the way they tell stories, I think it's going to be a good kick-off, and off the back of things like Alien Romulus as well, it's very much on point in terms of genre, so I think it'll be good.
Good, yeah. I just hope they're gonna, because they've been in a bit of trouble lately. Supermassive, some redundancies like everyone else. So I hope it carries on. But we're gonna get that in 2025, aren't we? So
yeah, that was 2025.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to add is that they're trying new things with this. So it's going to have like a persistent threat, like a Mr. X or something chasing you down at all times. So obviously it's going to have that branching storyline, but at the same time, new elements, which I think, as much as I enjoyed the first, I only played the first three. I didn't do the haunted house one at the end, actually. There was perhaps arguably a bit of a lack of innovation. It was just a branching narrative throughout those first three anyway. So the fact that they're adding stuff for season 2, yeah. And I was looking forward to this one when all that announcement came out about all the names, the trademarks, because, yeah, as Darren said, sci-fi horror is very much in right now.
Good. Richard, what have you got? Have you got one you want to talk about?
I was going to mention that one, but I'm glad we spoke about it. So I'll quickly mention Day of the Diver, which I don't think has got an Xbox announcement yet. But again, this was in the pre-show, and similar to Directive 8020, shouldn't have been in the pre-show for me. But Day of the Diver is getting 3 additional additions. 2 of them I'm not familiar with, but I wanted to give a shout out to Balatro, which is being integrated into Day of the Diver. And the developer of Balatro said, it's impossible for us to put a fishing game in Balatro, so we put Balatro in a fishing game instead. And just this trailer showed the world of Day of the Diver, but Balatro was fully playable inside it. And I think the 2 others that are happening are also bringing elements of those games into it as well. I think one might be a singer-songwriter, though, that she's now being featured in this game as well. But I was just impressed to see Balatro in there, and perhaps it can be brought into other things as well. I'd like to see it in everything, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Put it into Call of Duty. We didn't chat about Call of Duty, but I don't think we need to chat about Call of Duty. We knew enough. We didn't know anything new except choices. I think it's, and Starfield, I didn't chat about that because I think there's a new vehicle you can play around in today.
And I've jumped back in Starfield in the past week, so I've had a go with that vehicle, and do you know what? It feels so much better. Just something so simple as that as well. Previously, you would go to a planet to do a mission objective, and you would see lots of things on the horizon. It's just a bit too far away. But now you've got this vehicle, and you're no, I'm just going to go to it and see what it is. Yeah. And a lot of the time, it's just a bit of fun.
Yeah. No, it does that. It does make it. I don't know why they didn't do this before. It does make a difference. You're exactly right. Okay, good. And I'm going to just chat about Lost Records a little bit. Which we chatted about before because we saw a little trailer, and it's by Don't Nod, who did Life is Strange people, and it's set in the sort of 1990s for teenage girls, is it? Who are sort of in the trailer we saw before, they had a much more they were flying around, or if I confused this with another game, they had supernatural power. But we saw a little bit more of the gameplay. I mean, it looks amazing. It does look really kind of beautifully kind of animated, but it has that. What's that program with that was on Paramount? About the football team in the 90s that go back, and then it's
Yellow Jackets.
It has a little bit of Yellow Jackets to it, because then you're in the future, aren't you? They're now.
Because in the trailer, she got that parcel, and she was like, "This just arrived today," and that kickstarts. Well, I'm guessing it would kickstart the story itself. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was kind of even more. I thought, oh right, okay. So this has got another element to it. Because I thought I was just these 14, and you're just playing around with some supernatural stuff there, of course, but spat powers. But I'm just really excited, and what I'm really excited about as well is looks like they're doing it in 2 parts. Because it was 2 release dates. So it was a February release date and a March release date. So is it like the episodic stuff, which the original Life is Strange came out on? I really like that format.
Yeah,
I think it's good. It works. Yeah. I think even streamers are doing it, splitting things in half, aren't they? Big TV series and things.
So that's coming out. We know February and March next year. We haven't chatted about. the stuff that, Age of Mythology, we know that's coming out next. We've talked about that before. Kingdom Come has been delivery to us, moved to Feb. Unknown 9, which is a game I saw a while back for a little preview event. It's got a release date of October. I worry for this game. I just worry for it. I think it's going to get lost. And they didn't give it enough. It didn't have enough build up in that trailer. It was like, it's coming out in October, and it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
It just worries me a little bit, but it could be good. From what I saw, it's really interesting, but we're hopefully fingers crossed. Civilization 7. Can I say this? Is it any different from the other Civilization? Everything I saw from that sort of trailer, I was like, they never say it's anything different, do they? They never go, in this one, it looks prettier, of course, but I suppose you're just going to do the same thing, aren't you? And build a civilization up and then go to space.
I don't know any other person that puts their name before the game title as well, other than Sid Meier. Sid Meier's Pirate, Sid Meier's Civilization. But I don't know who he is. He's an enigma.
Feels like a callback to 90s PC games, and he's kept the torch going, and everybody else has decided to drop their name. Like Peter Molyneux could have rightfully gone Peter Molyneux's Tales of Albion or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
But no, Sid Meier's a one-man band doing that, I guess. I think it's fundamentally just shinier with probably more options, but it's fundamentally not going to be much different from the last one.
But they did say that it's got Gwendolyn Greer. She's the narrator for it, which, I don't know, kind of got me more interested than the gameplay itself, really.
Yeah. It's a commitment, isn't it?
A Civilization game,
yeah. I've done it once, a long time ago. It's like, I don't know if I can do this again. Yeah. But that's coming out in February again, another Feb game. God, blimey, February's busy. Yeah. Any other ones? I think that's probably it, isn't it? I can't think of anything else in there.
Not part of the opening night, but Atomfall got a new trailer on Wednesday. It was part of the Xbox thing and a release window of March. I'm just looking forward to this because it's heavily inspired by the likes of Fallout, but it's set in rural Britain. It might be. It's definitely down south. I think someone mentioned Guildford, but I did read a YouTube comment that's like, oh, it's Fallout Yorkshire, and I was like, it's definitely not with those kind of accents. But it's got a lot of the robotics in there, a nuclear disaster, survival elements. So I think if it's with a bit of British humour, I think that could be quite good as well. Yeah.
Anything else from you, Darren? Caught your eye?
Nothing massive, but I think Towerborn was interesting that it's getting Steam Early Access, because hasn't that been billed as an Xbox exclusive, or we thought it was going to launch on Xbox for a while, and then it's going to be Steam Early Access apparently, which I thought was interesting. But no, otherwise there was a lot of updates on stuff we already knew, like you mentioned, Age of Mythology is a big one for me. The fact that they're launching simultaneously on console and PC, when they've brought Age of Empires 2 and 4 to Game Pass, I think is really exciting. So I'll be checking that out on day one.
Great. There is a game that I saw just the title and I didn't really know anything, called God Save Birmingham. I don't know what that is.
I've not even seen that one.
No. I think it's like a sim game. I don't know what it is, but I like the idea. That's the best title I have. I think it's called that. Have a look at it. We'll check. We'll do a fact checking afterwards. Yeah. God save Birmingham. Brilliant, gentlemen. Thank you so much. There's some good stuff in there. We've talked about some nice stuff that's got us exciting, but it wasn't anything like, wow, was there? There wasn't that, my word.
No. Speaking with you guys has actually shown me that I enjoyed it a bit more than I thought I did. So,
that's it.
I take back what I said earlier.
Well, that was good. That was our first ever audio and visual podcast, so I hope you enjoy it. Please leave a comment, see what you enjoyed, and we'll be back very soon with a few more of these, if this works. If this doesn't work, you might never see it. It's lost. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Darren. And
thank you, Gareth.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
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 You've been listening to the official podcast of TheXboxHub.com. You'll be able to find all the notes of this show at www.thexboxhub.com/podcast. You can also check out our social feeds on Instagram and Twitter at The Xbox Hub and search for The Xbox Hub on Facebook.